Hello everyone, welcome to IS Baba's 60 Days Rapid Revision Series for Prelims 2022. This is day 37 and we take up polity. So some of the constitutional concepts and also the government schemes. So those we discuss here. And the first one, the 5th and 6th schedule areas. So what is the difference between the 6th and 5th schedule states? So first we go with the 5th schedule. So here the state which has at least some part of areas which are dwelt by the tribal people. So they are included in this 5th schedule areas. And these states, they should have a tribal advisory council, so that will advise for the welfare of tribals. And this tribal advisory council, that should comprise some 20 members, and out of these 20 members, so 3/4, so they should be the representatives from the scheduled tribes. So that means they should be the MLAs who have been elected from those areas, and the governor has authority to decide if any central or state legislation has implication for the state's scheduled areas. Then the governor can also repeal or amend any regulations concerning the state having scheduled areas, but only with the consent of the president. So we discuss how all this happens for a while. So first we finish the facts. So it provides the provisions for the declaration of a scheduled area, and then the president is empowered to declare an area as a scheduled area, and the president can change, increase or alter the boundaries of these scheduled areas. And more facts, it provides details regarding the amendment of the schedule, and any of the provisions of this schedule might be amended, altered or repealed by the parliament from time to time. So here it is like, so any state which is having a tribal population as a part, so it is a scheduled state, and the president can declare the scheduled area and he can also alter its boundaries. And now if the center passes any law, so the applicability of the law is decided by the governor, and the governor with the consent of president, so he can alter, amend these laws. And after that, so if a state has to be included into this 5th schedule or not, so that is decided by the parliament. So these are some of the facts. Then come to next, the 6th schedule. So 6th schedule was originally intended for the predominantly tribal areas, that is tribal population of over 90%. So remember, if there is 90% and more, so that state doesn't come under the 5th schedule, it comes under the 6th schedule, and which was categorized as an excluded area under the Government of India Act 1935. Historical significance. Then the 6th schedule provides for autonomy in the administration of these areas through autonomous district councils. So these autonomous district councils, these are the distinct characteristic of the 6th schedule areas, and the scheduled areas, so they are the distinctive characteristics of the 5th schedule areas. So these autonomous district councils are like miniature states having specific powers and responsibilities in respect of all the three arms, that is legislature, executive and judiciary. So here we can see that complete autonomy is given for this autonomous district council. But for the scheduled areas, so there is utmost control by the governor, and governor acts with the consent of the president. So the centralization and the autonomy, so these are some of the differences. And we also know that Assam, then Tripura, then Meghalaya and Mizoram, so these are the 4 6th scheduled areas. Now the power of president and the governors with respect to the scheduled areas. So while the executive powers of the union extends in the scheduled areas with respect to their administration in the 5th schedule, the 6th scheduled areas remain within the executive authority of the state. So here remember that centralization. So for the 6th schedule, the state, so that is catering to most of the things. Then while 5th schedule envisages creation of the tribal advisory council, the 6th schedule provides for the district councils and the regional councils. So here we can see the various district and regional council, that is the Kazi Hill Autonomous District Council, Jaintia Hills, Garo Hills Council, then Chakma, then Lai Autonomous, Maras, then Tripuras, then Dima, Karbi Anglong and Bodoland. So these are the autonomous district councils. So this is a broader difference between the 5th and the 6th schedule areas. Then the circumstances under which Parliament can legislate in the state subject. So here we have some 4 to 5 circumstances. First one, in the national interest, that is Article 249. So if the Council of States, if it declares a resolution by supported by 2/3 of its member present and voting. So we know that, so for declaration of all India services, so all those things, if the Rajya Sabha, if it passes any resolution with this majority, so it can go ahead, the center can go ahead and legislate in the state subject. Then during the proclamation of emergencies, so here the parliament shall have power to make laws for the whole or any part of the territory of India with respect to all matters in the state list. So during emergencies, we know that the Indian government, it becomes unitary in nature. Then these laws will cease to have effect on expiration of 6 months after the proclamation ceases to operate. So that means after 6 months of the ending of emergency, so no laws that was enacted in the state list will be applicable anymore. Then the breakdown of the constitutional machinery in the state, that is the state emergency. That is, in case of the governor of the state, so if he reports to the president, or if the president, if he is satisfied, so he can bring in emergency, and during the time of state emergency, so legislation either it will be dissolved or it will go to the suspended animation. So during those times, so center can enact any laws to the state list. Then come to next, on the request of 2 or more states, so that is Article 252. So the access of such power is conditional upon an agreement between the 2 or more states requesting the parliament to legislate for them on a specified subject. So if they request, even then the center can legislate in the state list. Then legislation for enforcing international agreements. So whenever the international treaties and agreements are going on, so even then the center can legislate in the state list. So these are some of the circumstances. Then come to next, 15th Finance Commission recommendation on the 7th schedule. So it made a detailed recommendation. We will see. The committee disapproved the perceived tendency of the center to expand the concurrent list, and that too at the cost of states' exclusive legitimate powers. So we saw that during the 42nd Amendment, etc. So many state subjects, they were transferred to concurrent list. So such tendencies, they were disproved by the 15th Finance Commission. Then developments like the constitution of the Planning Commission in 1951 and later shifting of subjects in the 42nd Amendment. So all these, they were condemned by the 15th Finance Commission report. And then the commission also spoke about aligning the fiscal consolidation roadmap of the center and states. So both the center and state should strive together for the fiscal consolidation and to reach the FRBM targets. Then the Niti Aayog has emerged as a credible think tank, and their work in the sphere of the center-state relations need to be recognized. So Niti Aayog, it got some accreditation and accolades from the 15th Finance Commission. Then a differentiated debt path of the states, which has many constraints and issues of legacy debt, must be handled with sensitivity. So we know that state cannot take the international debt, and even with the center it cannot take any debt if it has a previous debt. So such things should be handled with sensitivity. Then the committee also recommended that there should be a fiscal range, then a fiscal point based on the expenditure outcomes. So that means we should not have a proper point based target. That means 3% of fiscal deficit should be maintained or 0% of revenue deficit should be maintained. So such point-based targets should not be there. There should be a range instead. Then the government needs to constitute an empowered group of domain experts for deeper rationalization of the central sector schemes. So this was also recommended. Then the centrally sponsored schemes should be flexible enough to allow states to adapt and innovate. And then the symmetry in the working of the GST Council and the Finance Commission deserves serious consideration. So this is because the Finance Commission, it allocates the money that is earned, but GST Council, so that will decide the source of earning. So only if the earning is more, the allocation will be better. So that is why synchronization between the GST Council and Finance Commission was thought out. So these are some of the recommendations. Then come to next, the special assistance measures. So here recently the Union Minister of State for Finance has asserted that the central government has extended a special package in lieu of the special category status to Andhra Pradesh. So we know that Andhra Pradesh was striving for the special category status. So here this special category status, so that was given as a planned assistance by the National Development Council. So this was during the Planning Commission times. And what are the criteria for this special category status? So first is the hilly and difficult terrain, and then the low population density or sizable share of tribal population. And then if the state is in strategic location along the borders with the neighboring countries, and then economic and infrastructural backwardness, then non-viable nature of the state finances and others. So if these criteria were fulfilled, so then the special category status was to be given, and some extra money was given to those states. But however, we know that many states are in queue for this status. So that is why Andhra Pradesh was not given, because if one is given, all others will clamor for the same. And here the special assistance mechanism, so that provides 19,000 crores approximately for a period of 5 years, and it had been released by the Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance. So mark Department of Expenditure as a matter of fact. And this special assistance mechanism also comes with a revenue deficit grant. So for 2020-21, some 5,800 crores have been given to the Andhra Pradesh as the revenue deficit grant. So what is this revenue deficit grants? Friends, once the Finance Commission devolves, so after devolution of all the funds, it will see whoever states have got less funds compared to others. So that means there is no parity between the revenue that state has generated and the allocation it has got. So this is called the revenue deficit grants. So aftermath of allocation, some additional grants are being given for various states, and Andhra Pradesh has been given this 5,800 crores. So remember this revenue deficit grants here. Then come to next, the procedure for appointment of DGP. So the actual procedure goes this way. The state governments send their proposal for the DGPs to the UPSC. That is 3 months before the incumbent is due to retire. And the UPSC will prepare a panel of officers fit to be the DGP in the state concerned and send them back. And the state shall immediately appoint one of the persons shortlisted by the UPSC. But however, this was not happening. So what were the problems? That is the state governments. So they were appointing their favorite officers as the DGPs just before their superannuation date so that they could continue in service even after retirement. So that was a farce because juniors were not getting the chance. Then some states appoint acting DGPs, though there was no concept of these acting DGPs. So it was only an attempt to bring their favorite persons to that post. And the ruling by the Supreme Court, so Supreme Court said that, so here as and when the UPSC gives the short list, so state has to select the DGPs only from that short list, not from any others. So that was one. And then the states should ensure a minimum tenure of 2 years for that officer. And then states shall avoid appointing a DGP just before his or her superannuation. That means a DGP should be such a person who has a reasonable period of service left before his appointment. So now this reasonable period was subjective. We don't know what was that. And in 2019, Supreme Court clarified that should be a minimum tenure of 6 months. So only those persons who have a minimum tenure of 6 months should be appointed as DGPs. So these are some of the facts, and various politics is being going on for appointment of chief secretaries, then the DGPs and others. So all this will become important in that context. Then come to next, the government approves New India Literacy Program. So who does it? The Ministry of Education or the HRD Ministry, and it is a centrally sponsored scheme. So mark these two facts as important ones. Then the objective of the New India Literacy Program, it is to impart not only foundation literacy and numeracy, but also to cover other components too. So what are other components? That is the critical life skills, so the digital literacy, financial literacy and others. And then the vocational skill development, then the basic education, the numeracy, science and others. And then who are the intended beneficiaries? The scheme will cover the non-literates of the age 50 years and above in all the states. So mark these. And then the target for foundational literacy and numeracy for the financial year 2022 to 27 is 5 crore learners at the small target of 1 crore per year. And it is by using the online teaching, learning and assessment system. So by using this OTLAS system, so we have to make sure that 5 crore people, they will be literate by the fiscal year 2027. Then come to next, the salient features of this New India Literacy Program. That is, the school will be the unit for the implementation of the scheme. And the schools, they have to conduct the surveys of the beneficiaries and voluntary teachers. And the flexibility of the states to undertake innovative activities is also given. And then the CSR, the corporate social responsibility and the philanthropic support, so that also might be received for this program. And then the use of technologies is also allowed. Then the performance grading index, so that is installed for the state and the district level, and that will show the performance of each state and district on the yearly basis through this UDICE portal. So what is this UDICE portal? So this is the Uniform District Information System. So here we will get the ranking. Then the age cohort is 15 to 35 for the first, and after all these 15 to 35 age group are educated, so we will take up for the above 35 age group. And then priority should be given to the girls and SC, ST and OBCs and minorities who can substantially benefit from adult education. Then the focus will be on all aspirational districts and also the districts which are backward. So these are some of the features of this New India Literacy Program. Then come to next, the PM Poshan Shakti Nirman Scheme. So the midday meal scheme has been renamed as the PM Poshan Shakti Nirman Scheme, and it also includes some additional provisions. So what are those? First is the supplementary nutrition. So in the aspirational districts and those districts which have high prevalence of anemia, so here supplementary nutrition like the milk, eggs, so all those things shall be given. Then the states to decide their diet. So currently, if a state decides to add milk or eggs to the menu, so now the center is not going to give any money and state should spend from its exchequer. But from now on, it is not the case. So center will give some corpus of money so that the state can add its menu. And the nutri gardens. So these nutri gardens will be developed in the school premises to give children the first hand experience with the nature and gardening. So these children, they will grow the vegetables and those vegetables will be used for the midday meals. Then the women and farmer producers organizations and the women SHGs, so all these shall be encouraged to supply the locally grown traditional food items. So here a circular economy is being conceptualized. Then social audit. So the scheme also plans inspection by the students of colleges and universities for the ground level execution. Then Tithi Bhojan. So communities would also be encouraged to provide the children food at the festivals, or if anybody is having a marriage ceremonies or other functions, so they can also serve their food in these midday meals. And then the DBTs to the schools. So the state will be asked to do the direct benefit cash transfer of cooking costs to the individual school accounts. So without delays, now the benefit will go directly to the school's account. So these are some of the additional features of Poshan Shakti Nirman. And then the SMILE scheme, that is support for marginalized individuals for the livelihood and enterprise. So it is a new scheme launched after the merger of the existing schemes for beggars and transgenders. And it is having a budgetary outlay of 70 crores. So a very small outlay, and its objective is to cover the welfare measures for both the transgender persons and the person who are engaged in the acting of begging. So to remove beggary, it is aimed. And here make sure friends, so most of the transgenders, so they are pushed towards penury and they will come to the begging very easily compared to other persons. So that is why begging and transgenders, so they are linked in this scheme. Then it focuses on rehabilitation, then provision of medical facilities, counseling, then education, skill development, etc. with the support of the state governments, local urban bodies and voluntary organizations, community-based organizations and others. So once the scheme has to be fulfilled, so all the stakeholders should be taken into consideration. So even in prelims, you go with the inclusive approach. That means, so if there is any provision like which of the following will contribute to this scheme, so try to include as much as possible unless and until they are extreme. Then it is estimated that an approximate 60,000 poorest persons would be benefited under this scheme for leading a life of dignity. So these are some of the facts here. Then come to next, the National Helpline Against Atrocities. So here the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, so it has launched a national helpline, and that is under the Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. So for the better implementation of this act, the helpline has been taken up. So this helpline will be available round the clock on toll-free number across the country, and it can be accessed by making a voice call or the voice over internet protocol, so emails and others. And then this service will be available in Hindi, English and regional languages. And its mobile application is also available. So a multi-channel platform where the citizens can come and air their grievances, and it will ensure that every complaint is registered as an FIR and the relief is provided and all registered complaints are investigated and all the charge sheets are filed and these are prosecuted in the courts for the decision. And all these should happen within the timeline given in the SCST's Prevention of Atrocities Act. So these are some of the facts regarding the National Helpline Against Atrocities. Then come to next, the Scheme for Economic Empowerment of DNTs, that is the Denotified Tribes, the SEED program. So the scheme is implemented by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and here the aim is the welfare of denotified tribes, nomadic tribes and semi-nomadic communities. So this SEED scheme, it is being conceptualized as per the recommendations of the National Commission for Denotified, Nomadic and Semi-Nomadic Tribes Commission, that is Shri Bhikkhu Ramji Idate Commission. So mark this as important. And then the denotified, nomadic and semi-nomadic tribes are the most neglected, marginalized and economically deprived communities. So friends, remember, these are not the criminal tribes. So the denotified tribes are different and the criminal tribes are different. So criminal tribes are those who have the criminal activity as their vocation, but these are the neglected tribes, and most of them being living a life of destitution for generations and still continue to do so with an uncertain and gloomy future. And then they have escaped the attention of our development framework and thus are deprived of the support, unlike the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So these are not even included in the schedules. And then historically, these communities never had access to private land or home ownership. So even the basic amenities were not given to them. So that is why we have the seed program for empowering these denotified tribes. And more facts, four components of the scheme are to provide coaching of good quality for these denotified tribes to compete in the competitive exams, then to provide health insurance for these, and then to facilitate livelihood initiatives at the community level to build and strengthen the small clusters, and then to provide financial assistance for the construction of houses to the members. So remember the coaching, then the insurance, then the livelihood and the house. So these are some of the facts. Then come to next, the idea database. So Ministry of Agriculture, mark it as important, it had signed a memorandum of understanding with the Microsoft to run a pilot program for 100 villages in 6 states. So this MOU, it requires Microsoft to create a unified farmer service interface through its cloud computing services. And this unified farmer service interface, it will be a part of AgriStack the government is envisaging. So that means all the database will be put in one place, and this AgriStack and the platform idea, so that will become one-stop destination for all the technology related agriculture matters. So farmers, if they do one call, if they text one message to this idea, so they can get n number of technological solutions here. And this AgriStack is a collection of technology based interventions in agriculture on which everything else will be built. And each farmer will have a unique digital identification that contains personal details, then information about the land they farm, as well as the production and financial details. And each ID will be linked to the individual's Aadhaar card. Then come to next, the center published a consultation paper on this idea, and this idea is under construction. And this idea aims to keep farmers at the center of agroecology by promoting free digital technologies. And this is to be achieved through the creation of AgriStack. And the available data related to PM Kisan, Soil Health Card, then PM Crop Insurance, so all will be available here. So farmers, so they can access any kind of technological solutions from these. So for that we require database. So data collection is going on, service will also be provided later. Then come to next, Good Governance Index. So recently Home Minister, so he released this Good Governance Index, and it is being prepared by the DARPG. So mark DARPG as important. Then Good Governance Index framework covered 10 sectors and 58 indicators. So what are these 10 sectors? First is the agriculture and allied sector, then commerce and industry sector, then HRD, then public health, then public infrastructure and utilities, then economic governance, social welfare and development, judicial and public security, environment and citizen-centric governance. So these are the sectors, and the governance and the government's approach to the citizens and its capability of getting the things done is being assessed for all these 10 sectors. And then the index is being prepared. And the findings of the index, so Gujarat, Maharashtra and Goa, they top the composite ranking, and in the Northeast and Hill State category, so Mizoram and Jammu, so they show a significant improvement, that is an increase of 10.4% and 3.7% respectively. Then in the Union Territories category, Delhi topped. So but obvious, it is a very posh Union Territory. Then 20 states have imposed their composite Good Governance Index score over the GGI 2019 scores. So 20 states have shown the signs of improvement, which is a good step. Then come to next, the Global State of Democracy Report 2021. So this GSOD report is released by the International IDEA. So this is a Stockholm-based think tank, and India is one of the founding members of this organization. So mark founding members as important. And then GSOD 2021 report assesses 165 countries and 116 indicators. So some of the indicators are the representative government, fundamental rights, then checks and balances on the government, impartial administration, participatory engagement, so all these. And some of the findings, the GSOD 2021 report states that the number of countries that have slid towards authoritarianism is 3 times as high as those that are moving in a democratic direction. So that which is moving backward is 3 times more than those countries which are moving in the forward direction. And the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated this trend. So due to COVID-19, so more countries are moving towards authoritarianism. So this is what the report says. Then come to next, the portal Bal Swaraj. So it is being created by the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, the NCPCR, and the significance, NCPCR has developed it under the Section 109 of the Juvenile Justice Act. And this portal aims to address the growing problem of children being affected by COVID-19. And what are the objectives? So here, the online tracking and the real-time monitoring of children who have been lost their parents during the COVID-19. So a very grateful aim this carries. Then the working of this portal. So it will track the children affected by COVID-19 right from the production of children before the child welfare committees. So if there is any orphan children, so he or she will be produced first to the child welfare committee and then to the restoration of children to their parents or guardian or relatives. So till the restoration and its subsequent follow-up. So how these relatives are taking care of those children. So all these will be catered by Bal Swaraj portal. Then the data will be filled in the portal by the district officer and the state officers for each child. So we will have higher officers to maintain and update this portal. Then come to next, SAMPANN project. So the abbreviation of SAMPANN means so somewhere around simplified management of the pensions. And here over 1 lakh people have received pensions directly in their bank accounts through this SAMPANN portal. And some of the facts regarding SAMPANN. So it is a seamless online pension processing and payment system for the Department of Telecommunications pensioners. So it is for the DOT's pensioners. Then it provides direct credit of the pension into the bank accounts of the pensioners. So a DBT like thing, and it is an autonomous project being implemented by the Ministry of Communications. And it has helped the department in faster settlement of the pension cases and improved reconciliation or auditing and ease of accounting. So everything has been eased after this SAMPANN project was launched. And then it has also been instrumental in settling close to 76,000 BSNL VRS scheme, that is voluntary retirement services. So they have been smoothly done in a very short time of 6 months by this SAMPANN project. So a very futuristic project if it is being generalized for all the departments. So these are some of the facts. Then come to the last part. Friends, we have been speaking all through this session about governance. So what is this governance? It is nothing but the smooth flow of goods and services from the producer towards the beneficiary. So if that happens without delay and if that happens respectfully, so that itself is the very essence of good governance. So the poor people, the illiterate people, they feel that it is only the God who can give the things with utmost respect and reverence to the place where they are. So if we go on to give them, so but obvious the civil servants will be the abode of gods for them. And that is why throughout the Indian history, civil servants are being treated no less than gods. So we will live up to the expectations of those people who have been waiting for that. So do it. All the very best. Good luck, friends.